This is Sky Rey, an ordained animist minister with the Web of Life and a Spirit Bridge practitioner. And this is Between Worlds, a podcast where we explore the healing modality of sound journeys. A sound journey is a meditative experience that uses sound as a vehicle for exploration. Through instruments such as singing bowls, drums, voice, and flute, sound can help quiet the thinking mind and open the door to deeper awareness, insight, and connection. Much like a dream or guided meditation, each journey is unique, unfolding through imagery, emotion, sensation, and personal meaning. There is no right or wrong way to experience a sound journey. Simply relax, listen, and allow whatever arises to be part of the journey. In these podcasts, I am sharing journeys from my personal practice. These stories are not meant to tell you what to believe, but rather to offer a glimpse into the symbolic and spiritual experiences that can emerge when we enter an altered state through sound, intention, and imagination. Whether you listen as a seeker, a dreamer, or simply out of curiosity, I invite you to approach these journeys with an open mind and an open heart. This journey is titled The Monster. As the drum begins, I stand in journey space. My request is simple. I no longer want to be afraid of myself. Please help me, I announce into the void. Helpers are needed. A dragon, an eagle, an elephant, and a snake all appear. The dragon appears first. She is brilliant white, so luminous I can barely look at her. She smiles slyly and tells me to turn off my light. The moment I do, she disappears. See, she says from the darkness, I am a reflection. Without your light, I remain unseen. She tells me to turn my light back on. When I do, she reappears in radiant white. If I am so luminous, I ask, why am I afraid of myself? Suddenly, I am riding on the back of a giant elephant, and a great serpent draped across my shoulders. The dragon flies above us, and high overhead an eagle circles through the sky. Ahead of us stands several gates that must be crossed before we can arrive where we are going. At each gate, someone who has been difficult or painful in my life appears before me. My response to them determines whether I am able to continue forward. Some I lecture, others I forgive. It depends on where I am in the process. There are some I still cannot fully release. To them I say, I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. As these visions fade, the smell of death rises around me, something rotten and decaying. I call for bear, wolf, and vulture to help clear the death away. They descend upon an unidentifiable corpse and begin devouring what has long been left unattended. I continue forward on the elephant's back. The snake slides down from my shoulders and rests its head against the elephant's third eye. Together, we move onward in silence. Somewhere ahead of me is a monstrous version of myself. I can feel her presence before I can see her. She believes she has committed terrible acts, unforgivable sins against herself and others. Looming over her is a man who tells her again and again how dangerous she is. But she is only a child. He convinces her she is the monster, when in truth, he is the one who carries the darkness. Still, she believes him. She believes she is nothing more than the worst parts of herself, irredeemable and grotesque. Over time, her body has twisted beneath the weight of that belief. Her back is hunched. Her face is misshapen. She limps. Every part of her appears diseased, distorted by shame and fear. The elephant stops and kneels. I step down from her bent leg and walk toward the monster version of myself. She faces me aggressively, ready to defend her grotesqueness at any cost. I place my hands on both sides of her face and look directly into her eyes. Beneath all the rage and distortion, she is terrified. I pour as much love as I can through my eyes into hers. Slowly, her defenses begin to melt. Sadness, grief, and fear pour out of her all at once. She collapses into my arms, sobbing. I carry her away from that place and bring her to the healing pool. She floats on the water while I tend to her carefully. I wash her hair, her face, her arms and legs, her back, her stomach. No part of her is left untouched or untended. The water becomes a dissolving force. The monster she believes herself to be begins to wash away. What remains is just a little girl. I hold her tightly and cry with the relief and love of finally finding her again. She looks up at me confused. "But I was a monster," she says softly. I smile at her and hold her closer. "There are no monsters," I tell her. "Only scared little girls." As the drum fades, we return back to the beginning, which is also the end. The monster is a journey about the stories we tell ourselves and the identities we create around our wounds. It explores how shame can distort our self-image and how healing often begins not through confrontation or conquest, but through tenderness and acceptance. At its heart, the journey offers a simple realization. The part of ourselves we fear most are often the parts that need our love the most. What appears monstrous may simply be a frightened aspect of ourselves, waiting to be seen, embraced, and welcomed home. One aspect of this journey that feels important to mention is the series of gates I encounter before reaching the monster. In many journeys, access to deeper understanding is not freely given. There are thresholds that must be crossed and tests that must be met before entry is allowed. These tests are not about proving worthiness. They are opportunities to demonstrate readiness. Journey space often operates this way. Before we are allowed to encounter the deeper wound, the hidden truth, or the treasure we seek, we must first address what stands between us and it. The gatekeepers are not obstacles, they are teachers. Their purpose is not to keep us out, but to ensure that when we arrive at the destination, we are prepared for what awaits us there. Only after passing through these thresholds was I able to meet the monster. In hindsight, the gates were preparing me for an encounter that could only be approached with compassion rather than fear. Another aspect worth exploring in this journey is allies, which we will encounter over and over again in journey work. At the beginning of the journey, I ask for help, and help arrives in the form of a dragon, an eagle, an elephant, and a snake. Later, when I encounter the smell of death and decay, I call for bear, wolf, and vulture, and they come as well. This is common in journey work. We are rarely asked to do the work alone. Helpers often arrive carrying a particular medicine or perspective. The eagle may offer a broader view. The elephant may provide strength, memory, or stability. The snake may represent transformation, healing, or wisdom. A vulture may help clear away what has died so that new life can emerge. Their presence often reflects exactly what is needed for the work at hand. Over time, I've come to see that these relationships are not symbolic in the ordinary sense. They are relational. Just as we build trust and friendship with people, we can build relationships with the beings who repeatedly appear in journey space. They become companions, teachers, protectors, and guides. One of the greatest lessons journey work has taught me is that healing is rarely a solitary act. At the heart of the monster is the question of how a frightened child becomes convinced that she is something terrible. The monster in this journey was not born a monster. She was shaped by shame. Shame is different from guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, there is something wrong with me. Over time, shame moves from being an emotion to becoming an identity. Instead of recognizing a mistake, a wound, or a painful experience, we begin to believe that our very nature is flawed. This distortion is often amplified through abuse, neglect, criticism, rejection, or repeated experiences of being misunderstood. When a child is told directly or indirectly that they are too much, not enough, bad, difficult, selfish, broken, or unlovable, they often lack the ability to question the message. Children are dependent on the adults around them for survival. If an authority figure repeatedly presents a distorted view of reality, that child frequently accepts it as truth. In the journey, the monster believes the shadow of a man who continually tells her how dangerous she is. What struck me later was that she had accepted his assessment without question. She could no longer distinguish between what was true and what had been projected onto her. The fear, darkness, and judgment that belonged to another had become incorporated into her own identity. This is one of the tragedies of shame. It does not merely wound us, it alters the way we see ourselves. It acts like a warped mirror. We look into it and no longer see our true nature. Instead, we see a distorted reflection shaped by fear, judgment, and old stories. Over time, we may begin organizing our lives around these distortions. We hide parts of ourselves. We become hypervigilant. We expect rejection. We defend ourselves against threats that may no longer exist. We carry a burden that was never ours to carry. What makes the monster so powerful for me is that healing did not occur through argument or analysis. I did not convince the monster that she was lovable. I did not debate her beliefs or prove that she was wrong. Instead, I looked into her eyes and saw her clearly. Beneath the rage, beneath the grotesque appearance, beneath all the layers of shame and self-protection, there was simply a terrified little girl. That realization changed everything. The journey suggests that many of the parts of ourselves we reject are not inherently dark or monstrous. They are wounded. They adapt to survive. They carry grief, fear, loneliness, and confusion. What appears frightening on the surface is often a protective shell built around an unmet need. This is why compassion can be so transformative. Shame thrives in secrecy, judgment, and isolation. Compassion interrupts that cycle. The moment we are able to look at a wounded part of ourselves with understanding rather than condemnation, something begins to soften. The distortion begins to dissolve. In the healing pool, the monster does not die. She is washed clean of a mistaken identity. What disappears is not her essence, but the shame that had convinced her she was something she was never meant to be. What remains is the child she had been all along. There are no monsters, only scared little girls. Thank you for joining me, Sky Ray, Between Worlds. If there is one thing I hope you carry with you, it is the reminder that the parts of yourself you fear most often are the parts most in need of your love. Shame may distort your reflection, convincing you that you are broken, unworthy, or beyond redemption, but beneath those stories there remains something whole and untouched. Until next time, may you find the courage to look within with honesty, the compassion to embrace what you find, and the wisdom to remember that there are no monsters, only wounded parts waiting to be seen, loved, and welcomed home.